Just to put our discussion in context, let's take a look at the screenshots of a few prominent native applications. We'll discuss in detail in the next slides what native application means. In the top row, we have got this iPhone Skype app, which provides voice over IP services through the mobile, the Twitter and Foursquare apps. These screenshots are from Android. And on your right corner is the Shazam app, which listens through the microphone or mobile device to identify songs that you're listening to. On the bottom row, we can see WordLens, a cool augmented reality application which translates words on the fly by processing the images captured on the mobile device video camera. And no discussion about native apps can be complete without showing at least a picture of Angry Birds, which anybody having a smartphone would have played, and it's a must-have. The thing about all of these apps have in common is that they are all purely native. But what does that actually mean? So in this slide, I try to summarize the most prominent characteristics of native applications. First of all, native applications have binary executable files that are explicitly downloaded to the device and stored there. The installation process could be initiated by the user or in some cases by the IT department of an enterprise. The most popular way to get native applications is by visiting an app store like iTunes or Android Marketplace. But mobile operating systems also provide additional methods to get the app onto the device. Anyways, once the app has been stored on the device, the user launches it just like any other service of the mobile device. For example, on an iPhone or an Android device, the app is launched from the home screen. Once the native application has been launched, it interfaces directly with the mobile operating system without any intermediary or container application. The application is free to access all the APIs made available by the OS vendor, and in many cases have a look and feel which is typical of that specific mobile OS. Now let's deep dive into these points a little deeper, starting with the first two, the binary and distributed. The process of obtaining a binary executable image and preparing it for distribution is basically the same for all the leading mobile operating systems, be it iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, or Windows. The developers write the source code of the application, which is in a human readable form, and create additional resources such as images, audio segments, or configuration info, and various OS-specific declaration files. They then use the tools provided by the operating system vendor to compile the source code and sometime also link into it in order to create an executable in the binary format, and then package that binary executable together with the resources of the application in order to obtain a package that can be distributed to the mobile devices through app stores or any other means. These tools and few other utilities and files are usually called the SDK of the mobile OS. SDK is a platform specific, and each mobile OS comes with its own unique tools. But the process is quite similar for all of them. So iPhone would have its own SDK, Android would come with its own SDK, and so is for other platforms. We'll have a look in the next slides on the different operating systems, starting with iOS. To create an iOS application for iPhone or iPad, the developer will write a code in Objective-C, C language, or C++. They would then compile and package this application using Apple's tool. Tools, they all come bundled in a single IDE called Xcode. The output from the packager is called a .app file, and it can be submitted to the Apple iTunes App Store. Similarly, to create a native Android app, developers will write their code in Java. For some versions of Android, developer can also include C or C++ code, but this complicates the process and requires additional tools. The developer will then compile and package that application using the Android SDK. So This is the SDK that you will use to compiling and linking, which has a nice integration with an Eclipse IDE. The output from the package is called .apk. It can be submitted to the Android marketplace and can be transferred to a device from the web. For BlackBerry, again the process is very similar. We start with Java source files. In case of BlackBerry, the SDK is called BlackBerry Java Plugin for Eclipse. We use the SDK tools to create a binary, package it with resources. In case of BlackBerry, it's called a .codecod file. And you optionally either submit it to the BlackBerry App World or use over-the-air installation to download to the device. And as you might expect, the process is again similar on Windows Phone 7, except that the source code is written in a different language, C# or any other Microsoft language. The SDK is integrated into Visual Studio, and the resulting distributable is called .xap. The App Store here is Windows Phone Market. On a side note, for Microsoft, there is a regional development option called XNA, which is optimized for game development and allows applications to be written for Windows Phone as well as Xbox 360. So if you see in all of these, right, the process is exactly the same. You write a source code, you have a different IDE to compile it into, you package, the package is different, and just submit it for the App Store. But as we can see, though the overall process of development is the same for all the platforms, the specifics are different. So if you see, Apple requires Objective-C, Android requires Java, BlackBerry requires Java, Windows requires C#, VB.NET. Tooling is again different. Executable files, different application scores are different. When we write code for one platform, we can't use it for others. This means that the process of developing and maintaining a mobile application for multiple operating systems is very expensive. To build a single application, you would need 4 set of people to understand 4 different languages, go through the entire life cycle from development till test, making the entire mobile application process is expensive. So the next question is, what if it's so expensive to build native applications? Why do we write native applications at all? Because there are certain benefits which only native applications can provide. To understand them, let's look at how native applications interface with the mobile OS where they execute. So on this slide, this is a view of how a native application will interface with the mobile operating system and will get access to all the internal APIs calls. So once the native application is installed on the mobile device and user launches it, it interacts with the mobile operating system through proprietary API calls that the operating system exposes. And this is true for all platforms, be it Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, or Windows. It is through these API calls that the application can get access to the different hardware components of the device. So all these hardware components, using these APIs, the application can directly interact right from the touch screen or the keyboard, can render graphics, connect to the networks, process audio received from the microphone. It can play sounds through the speakers or headphones, or receive images and videos from the camera. It can even access the GPS, receive orientation information, and of course read and write files on the solid-state disk, or access any other hardware elements available today on a mobile phone devices. Now there are 2 important things to note about these APIs. First, on the upside, these are very fast and powerful. They let you do amazing things because you have direct access to these proprietary APIs, and they really tap the full potential of mobile device. The downside is that these APIs are proprietary. Each mobile OS provides its own unique APIs for each function. So if you have to write a native application in a different, not only in a different programming language for a different mobile OS. The differences in APIs makes porting of an application to multiple devices even more expensive. So if you're writing an Android application, you not only have to write in Java, but to port that application to iPhone, you also need to understand the low-level APIs which iOS provides in order, along with the learning Objective-C. That makes the whole proposition pretty expensive. So in addition to providing the low-level hardware access services we just saw, mobile operating system also provides higher-level services that are important to personal mobile experience and made available to the user. For example, browsing the web, managing a calendar, contacts books, photo album, and of course, ability to make phone calls or send and receive text messages. So if you see at the bottom, these are the low-level APIs which we saw. And then there is a set of high-level APIs ranging from GUI Toolkit, Calendar API, Contacts, Push, Browser, and many more. So these APIs are exposed by mobile OS in two ways. First of all, the OS comes with built-in applications, which they call as native applications, which lets user directly access those services. Each mobile operating system comes with its own set of built-in apps. On this slide, you can see a few examples from both Android and OS. Built-in apps. The other way the mobile OS exposes these high-level services is by making them accessible to downloadable native apps. So they provide a high-level API calls, which along with the low-level APIs you can use to access calendars, to access contacts, to access push APIs as well as browser. These built-in APIs, the built-in apps are usually allowed to do much more things than these APIs than the downloadable apps. But for example, an app can read the user contact list, add events to the calendar, initiate the sending of an email. Other APIs let downloadable apps access various cloud-based services that are provided by the OS vendors, such as push notifications or in-application purchases. Another important set of APIs that the operating system provides is the GUI toolkit. Each mobile operating system comes with its own set of user interface components, which are called native UI components, such as buttons, input fields, sliders, menus, tab bars, dialogs. Applications that choose to make use of these components inherit the look and feel of that mobile operating system. And these native UI components usually provide a very smooth user interface. Though it's important to note that each mobile operating system comes with its own palette of UI components, which means that if you want to build an application that works across multiple operating systems, the designer of the application must be familiar with the UI components provided by each operating system in order to design an application that works for that user. So net-net, build a native application, you need to understand differences in GUI toolkits, you need to understand APIs, you need to understand different languages which each native platform provides. Now let's take a step back and focus on one specific built-in native application, the browser. Today, mobile devices comes with very powerful browsers with support for many HTML5 capabilities, CSS3 and advanced JavaScript. Here on this slide, I have specifically highlighted the browsers that come bundled with iOS and Android. But even the BlackBerry devices as well as Windows devices have come with a top-notch browser. HTML5 JavaScript have become so powerful today that it is now possible to develop very advanced and complicated applications using them. And this actually brings us to our next category, mobile web applications. Just like native apps, let's start with having a look at a few examples of web apps.